Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Up first, we've got a wind chill advisory here for the western Arctic coast from Point Lay on southwest to around Cape Lisburne, and that's out until 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. And for wind chills as cold as 50 degrees below zero, pretty gusty winds going on up in that area, Lisburne Hills, right about just east of, east of Cape Lisburne there. They had wind gusts this afternoon as high as 56 miles per hour at about 1 p.m. this afternoon. So pretty windy conditions, not so windy down toward Point Lay, but they're about 300 feet in that location. Certainly not a mountaintop location, but a little higher elevation. They're receiving stronger winds than the, say, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and Point Lay. But anyway, that wind chill advisory is out through tonight, through tomorrow afternoon for wind chills of 50 degrees below zero. Satellite pictures. Yesterday, strong storm near Shimia brought the storm force winds there. That's moved off to the south and weakened. And the main front right through here, all the precipitation out there in the middle of nowhere, west of the Pribilofs and north of mostly north of Unimak Island. Could be a little bit of moisture there around Nikolsky, but Dutch Harbor dry today. Another band of rain changing to snow this afternoon at Adak right through here. Amounts about 1/10 of an inch falling today, both at Adak and Atka, and that was mostly in the form of rain. A little chillier air now with those southeast winds dying off, so it changed over to snow at Adak, and also that low pulling southward. Shimia down to 32 degrees with snow showers this afternoon. Otherwise, basically dry here for the western Alaska Peninsula, maybe a few snow showers on the Bering Sea side there of the Alaska Peninsula, and then low pressure aloft here, actually south of Kodiak, circulating moisture westward. That brought about 1/2 inch of rain across southern Kenai Peninsula, Seldovia, on into Kamishak Bay, along with pretty gusty winds, high as about 50 miles per hour at Augustine Island today. And Kodiak about 1/4 of an inch of precipitation, and then Cordova getting a little bit of light rain this afternoon. Otherwise, a little bit heavier rainfall amounts. Temperatures in the lower 40s across Prince William Sound today. And Portage picked up about 1/4 of an inch of rainfall, and temperatures up near 40 in those areas. Otherwise, generally dry day here toward Yakutat. Big storm there south of the Queen Charlottes. That moving northward, the band of moisture coming northward. Strongest winds just to the south, actually on the east end of Dixon Entrance. Gray Inlet had gusts to 58 miles per hour in the last hour there, so almost getting up into the southern southeast coast. Precipitation just to the south as well. And otherwise, the increasing offshore flow here dried it out this afternoon, with most of the shower and rainfall activity ending across the Panhandle, except for the mid and high level clouds on the increase down here to the south, along with the falling pressures. Winds picking up through Lynn Canal, 30 gusts 40 miles per hour today from the north in that area there. Otherwise, the stronger winds now down across Dixon Entrance. Much lighter winds in between. Few gusty areas, Five Finger Lighthouse, 35 miles an hour. And up in the northeast, got a weak upper disturbance up here, bringing areas of light snow, which fell the entire day at Fort Yukon and northeastward. Light snow, flurries, patchy fog, ending at Dead Horse, continue at Barter Island. And just a few clouds here across the Seward Peninsula. And some clouds there around St. Lawrence Island. Anyway, light snow showers here, southern Kuskokwim Valley, on down to the Alaska Peninsula. Heavier precipitation I mentioned right across the Barren Island, southern Kenai Peninsula into Kamishak Bay, with up to 1/2 inch falling today. Lighter amounts along the eastern North Gulf Coast. Dry over the northern Panhandle. Weakening front again stalled out over the central Aleutians. Dropped only 1/10 of an inch of rain there. Winds much lighter now across all of the Aleutians out to the west. And for tonight, this area of moisture slowly edges eastward. just leaving a few isolated snow showers or flurries behind, possibly into Eagle. Should taper off and maybe end for Fort Yukon and Barter Island as well. Otherwise dry back to the west with increasing clearing. You can see enough gradient here keeps the winds blowing, and the wind chill's down. Point Lay this afternoon, 24 degrees below zero with winds 15 to 20 knots. So that's about a 50 degree below zero wind chill there. And that'll continue tonight in through tomorrow. Weak trough, isolated snow showers, flurries along that from the Nulato Hills on down into Bristol Bay, and some mixed rain and snow showers for Kodiak Island. Precipitation diminishing here along the southern Kenai Peninsula, Kamishak Bay. This whole pattern, or the whole area of moisture, shifting southwestward with time. Otherwise, out in the Aleutians, that front continues to weaken and really is not significant at all. And this front lifts some wind and rain into the southern southeast coast tonight, and it stays breezy and dry in the north with clearing over the Copper River Basin. And we'll see for tomorrow this area of moisture now down over Kodiak Island for some rain and snow showers. Just a chance of snow showers southern Cook Inlet and say Port Graham over into Kamishak Bay. Snow showers still a possibility. Bristol Bay and a narrow band right across the southwest interior, maybe a little more widespread over the Seward Peninsula. And this upper level disturbance keeps a chance of flurries here up over the northeast interior. This batch east of the border, and it stays occasionally wet with weakening low but much lighter winds over the southern southeast coast. Still a little breezy in Lynn Canal, but probably not as windy as you had today. And moving on to Monday, just variable clouds over the interior, some widespread clearing, it looks like, from the northern Koyukuk Valley and Kobuk Valley all the way out to the Arctic coast. Not bad to the south either, with mostly clear skies into Cook Inlet. Still a chance of rain or snow showers right along the eastern North Gulf Coast areas, and some light snow possible over the northern Panhandle. Otherwise, mixture conditions on down to the southwest. This system to the south will increase the winds, but no precipitation here along the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, not much change up over the Bering Sea, with sea ice continuing to slowly expand. Lows tonight, anywhere from 15 to 25 below up there in the north. Otherwise, milder, mid to upper 20s, Kenai Peninsula to near 40, Kodiak Island. Lower 30s for the Aleutians, and lows in the teens to upper 20s across the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow staying below zero north and west of the Alaska Range, quite a ways below zero up from the Brooks Range of the Arctic coast, but most areas above 20 below, and lower 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Lows the following morning, 20 to 25 below, all the way out to the eastern Arctic coast and the eastern Brooks Range. See a little bit colder air now along the Arctic coast there, mid-minus 20s for the lows, with below zero temperatures right down to Bethel, single numbers for Bristol Bay, and lows upper teens north to lower 30s in the south and southwest part of the Panhandle. Colder for Kodiak now, low 30, and the highs mid-30s there. Highs upper teens to mid-20s, south central Alaska, below zero again north of the Alaska Range, on out to the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic showing pretty good VFR through the central interior, on back to the Kobuk, Selawik Valley, Kotzebue Sound, Seward Peninsula, some IFR up there on the near the Brooks Range, and then marginal for the central north slope, and then some areas of IFR here down toward the east like White Mountains, and over toward the eastern border down toward North Waitok. Otherwise, another patch here of IFR. Looks like southwest Copper River Basin, and then to start the day along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, Alaska Peninsula, northeast Bristol Bay. IFR, the lower Yukon Valley from Norton Sound on down into, the greater Bethel area, southern Kuskokwim Valley. Not too bad out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Marginal VFR, some patchy IFR south of St. Lawrence Island. VFR for the Panhandle, some IFR right along the coast. In the afternoon, looks like marginal VFR southern southeast coast with even some IFR over toward Dose, Ketchikan, over to Stewart. VFR to the north, VFR North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Much of the interior looking pretty good. Still some IFR possibly here over the, southern part of the upper Yukon Valley and also the North Slope. Some lower conditions, otherwise VFR. And we've got a band of marginal to IFR conditions here from the Seward Peninsula. across Norton Sound and into the central southern Kuskokwim Valley, and then along the Aleutian Range, Alaska Peninsula, Bering Sea side, and some IFR south of St. Lawrence Island. You're in the VFR zone there tomorrow, otherwise marginal for the northern eastern Bering Sea. VFR out to the west. And moving to Monday morning, really good conditions here over interior Alaska until you get out toward the Seward Peninsula there in the Bering Strait. Kind of a zone of areas of IFR there. On over to the Alaska Range, Alaska Peninsula Aleutian Range, could still see some IFR, otherwise marginal VFR, becoming VFR out to the southwest. And IFR, northern panhandle on down to the south with marginal VFR out to the coast. Otherwise pretty good. Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, south central Alaska, all VFR. Continues into the afternoon. Monday, VFR for just about all of the interior. Some IFR up along the coast range here. IFR in areas of the panhandle. And also the White Mountain area, maybe Nome, could see some IFR. And mostly marginal for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Passes tomorrow, Anatuvik and Anagan, good VFR. For both passes, Merrill, Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR trending toward VFR later in the day, and rainy, marginal VFR becoming VFR in the afternoon, windy VFR, and Isabel and Mentasta, both VFR. Teneda looking good with VFR flying through the pass there. Portage starting out marginal early, becoming VFR possibly by mid-morning on through the afternoon. Chilkoot and White, good VFR. Freezing levels, not much to show here at the surface up into the Bering Sea, but still southwest of the Pribilofs, actually south of the Alaska Peninsula, right up along the coast range, on down to the southeast, 2,000 feet southern southeast coast. Icing, not a lot to show on this map either. Icing free for the panhandle, much of the interior. Could be some isolated moderate rime icing around Kodiak Island, maybe up into the southern Kenai Peninsula, and then possibly here Seward Peninsula, eastern Norton Sound, and maybe a patch there right over Atka Island. Otherwise, that's about it, all above 3,000 or 4,000 feet. And for the jet stream, of course, strongest jet, Pacific jet, to the south of the entire area here, right on into the California coast, actually. Upper level low moving in, drifting into the Gulf of Alaska. Weak upper system here over St. Lawrence Island, really not producing anything more than clouds, just like this one here over the eastern Arctic coastal areas, or actually Mackenzie Bay. Not really producing much in the way of any weather, but hinting of ridging through here eventually will kind of develop over the mainland later next week. And for the 9,000 foot wind flow, not too bad here, pretty light and variable over the interior. Easterlies though, 25 to 30 knots there, cutting across on the north side of this trough axis in conjunction with a high off the Arctic there. And then some ridging right through here, light winds there, 10 to 15, maybe 20, 25 around this low. Southeast 15 to 20 for the Aleutians. Big storm, mostly keeping the strongest winds though down to the Queen Charlotte areas with lighter winds in the panhandle. Could see 30 knots so at 3,000 feet, 30 to 35 southern southeast coast, 25 for Kodiak. Maybe northeast 25, north slope to the western Arctic coast. Turbulence, isolated moderate chop here. Selwyn Kobuk Valley into the Koyukuk Valley and the western Arctic coast.
It can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, it may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, continuing to grow. Ice now well south of St. Lawrence Island and off the Yukon Delta coast, and now even on the west side of Nunivak Island. And forecast is continuing to expand southwestward for the next several days. And for the forecast, Lynn Canal tomorrow, gale force northerlies 35 knots still, gusts 50 knots, storm force gusts, much like today, northeast 25, Stevens Passage, north 20 for Clarence Strait, and northeast 20 to 25 on the south coast, east 15 to 20 on the north coast. Outlook for Monday, small craft advisories, north 25, Lynn Canal, 5-foot seas, northeast 15, Stevens Passage, and southeast 20 for Clarence Strait, westerlies 20 knots on the south coast, 11-foot seas, south 20 on the north coast or north central coast, and then the extreme north coast, east 20, 8-foot seas. Prince William Sound for tomorrow, light north winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet, east 20, gusts 30 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, northeast 20, western North Gulf Coast into the Barrens, and small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay and southern Cook Inlet, northeast 25, 15 knots north of the Forelands. Following day on Monday, light winds, light northerlies here for Cook Inlet, northwest 15, Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands. Light southeast winds on the western North Gulf Coast, just 10 knots, northeast 15 on the east side. And light winds from the northeast continue for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, northwest 15 here on the eastern zones, north 20 for Shelikof Strait, northwest 20, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, and north 20 knots here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, otherwise 15 from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev. Seas at about 8 feet south side, and light winds, slight seas for Bristol Bay. Those pick up to 20 out of the northeast for Monday for Bristol Bay, 3-foot seas. And we've got small craft advisories now on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula and the Pacific side. Gales into the picture here with that storm down to the south, picking those winds up, 35 knots, seas 9 feet, 20 knots out of the east southwest of Sitkinak, and kind of variable winds here for Kodiak Island, 10 to 15 knots. And for the Fox Islands, Unalaska Island, north to northeast, 15 knots. Unmak Island, southeast 15 to 20, southeast 20 for the Adak-Atka area on out to Amchitka Island, then east of 15 for the far western zone. northeast at 10, so staying light out here for the next couple of days for the western Aleutians. Not too bad. Picking up, though, here for the AKwx area, 30 to 35 knots out of the northeast seas, building to 15 feet in the Pacific side of the islands. And gale force winds over toward Nikolsky and Unmak Island, and 40 knot northeasterly south of Unalaska Island with 13-foot seas. For the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, north winds 25 knots. Seas 5 feet. Small craft advisories, that's the only location here. Otherwise, pretty light winds of Pribilofs northeast at 15 with 6-foot seas. North 15, St. Matthew Island. And then 15 to 20 knot winds here from Nunivak Island on up to the Bering Strait, as well as Norton Sound, all out of the north. And then for the following day, more of a lighter variable wind condition up here, east for Norton Sound, northwest for St. Lawrence Island, only at 10 knots, northeast 15, north side of Nunivak Island, about 20 knots here coming out of Kuskokwim Bay, on down across the Pribilof Islands with seas up to 5 feet, light northerlies for St. Matthew Island. Up north for the Chukchi Sea, northeast 15 knots, but we have that wind chill advisory here. That's where we've got the winds even in the marine areas here. Brisk wind advisories for the western side, mostly Point Lay on down to Cape Thompson, northeast 25 to 30 knots. Otherwise, light northeast winds at 10 knots for the remainder of the Arctic coast. And for Monday, those become easterly at about 15 knots, central and east side. And brisk wind advisories continue for the western Arctic coast down to Cape Thompson to Wales, east at 20. For tonight, this area of light snow, clouds associated with an upper level disturbance slowly edging eastward, dry to the west, windy, wind chill advisory 50 degrees below zero through tomorrow afternoon. And light snow showers possible along this trough axis, just scattered here over Bristol Bay. And this whole area of moisture is slowly shifting southwestward later tonight and tomorrow. And wind and rain makes an appearance over the southern southeast coast. Stays windy. Lynn Canal through tomorrow, as we saw in the marine forecast, stays occasionally wet of a mixed nature down south. And you can see clearing, drying out North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Up in the interior, that's still hanging on to the west side. This still hanging on to the east side. That's still on the west side.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.